just don't think anybody kind of grew with Michael Beale as soon as he walked through the door, Jeff. He always looked as if he was kind of struggling from day one. He wasn't the appointment I don't think anybody wanted at the club. And he's not really lasted that long. When you think about the results that he's had at the club, his record's not fantastic. He was obviously came in to take the next leap from Tony Mowbray to try and jump us into those playoff positions, and unfortunately it's just not been able to happen for him.
No, it's not an easy club, Mick, your old club, to manage. That's a difficult, it's a big club with big expectation. It's not an easy one, is it? It's not. Who's going to be the next one coming through the door?
Which club is?
What sort of manager do they need?
And don't you dare say Kevin Phillips.
No, you can keep for now, Jeff. It's a difficult one, Andy. It really is, to try and say who's going to walk through the door. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of names mentioned because obviously Sunderland, it's a huge football club and it's a great job for anybody to take. I think Tony Mowbray kind of got Sunderland when he walked through the door. I think his relationship with the supporters and the players was absolutely fantastic. Maybe up until the end where results weren't pretty much going for Tony at the moment. I think everybody wishes him well as well in his sickness over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. But there's going to be a lot of names that are going to be branded around. The one that jumps off the page for me, whether he wants to manage in the Championship, would be Steve Cooper. I think he'd be a perfect fit for Sunderland, but it's whether he, because there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of talk that he's going to get a new job in the Premier League, but he seems to have been out of work for a little while now. And I think it might be the perfect fit for him because he's good with recruitment, he's good with working with younger players, and that is certainly the brand and the DNA at Sunderland Football Club, certainly over the last 3 or 4 seasons.
I see there's been talk that Will still as well. I just wonder though, Micky, is it a great job for anybody coming in? Didn't Tony Mowbray actually overachieve with what he'd got?
Well, possibly, Jeff. Yeah, I think when you look at Tony's tenure, maybe at the end when things weren't going well for him, I think what a lot of Sunderland people maybe forget is, we lost our top striker in Ross Stewart. He left the club and there was no real replacement that came in for him, and I think if you're losing a player who's knocking on getting 20 goals a season for you, it's very difficult to replace when the club is in a position where we're bringing in younger players and hoping that they just hit the ground running. I think it takes a little bit of time for certain players to come into a club and maybe for that to happen for them. So, yeah, I think he was frustrated a little bit, Tony. We had, obviously, the January transfer window where there was a few other younger players came through the door, but not players that you would maybe come in and maybe expect to just walk through the door at Sunderland and take us to that next level. And you're right about the overachieving. Tony certainly did that by getting us into the playoffs last season, and because of those expectations risen at a club like Sunderland, I think everybody thought that we were just going to jump straight into the playoffs again this season. Well, we know it's difficult, but when those expectations are risen, then I think everybody expects it to happen again, and unfortunately it's not been the case.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Dodds has got a job till the end of the season. He gets the club, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, yeah. He's obviously taken charge of a few games before and he's had some decent results as well. I think he's certainly well liked in the club as well. I know he has a very good relationship with Christian Speakman. I think that's why he's been given the opportunity of interim manager on certain occasions. And by all accounts, it looks like he's going to keep the post until the end of the season. And we just hope that he just gets something out of this group of players that gives us the opportunity to get ourselves back around those playoff positions come the end of the season, because it's a massive club. It's been out of the Premier League for such a long time now, down in League One for a certain amount of years as well, and it's not where the club needs to be, and I think that's where the frustration boils over with a certain amount of supporters.
Micky, stay with us. Man City, of course, host Brentford tonight. Live and exclusive on TalkSport. Pep Guardiola's been doing some
Who gives a monkey about Man City, man? But yeah, there we go then. Micky Gray say Steve Cooper's name's getting mentioned more and more and more and more. I think Steve Cooper would be a great candidate. I really do. Really do think he'd be a hell of a candidate to replace Michael Beale. As for Jeff Stelling and and Andy Townsend and stuff, well, Andy Townsend was saying, you know, it's a difficult club to manage. But you name a club that's easy to manage. Maybe it's the clubs that's got the millions and millions and millions and millions and millions, the Newcastles, the Man Cities, the Liverpools and all that. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying they're easy, but every team gans through manager after manager after manager. Do you know what I'm saying? Very, very rare does it happen where you have a manager that stays with the club for years. And once again, nobody's mentioning, you know, that the owners have to take some flack, you know, for keep appointing dross, you know, not listening to the fans, not taking, you know, noticing the warnings from everybody posting things and, you know, don't get him, and they're just constantly going against the fans. So the owners have to take, yes, Speakman's grown a pair of excuse me, Speakman's grown a pair of dogs down belows by getting rid of him. What are you getting him in the first place for, man? You know, man, just pack it in, and if you're gonna get another coach or a manager, let's ditch the coaching role, eh? Here's the one for you, like, is it time to ditch the coaching role and have our manager role back? Right? Where the man in charge of the team has his say, right? Has his say in the squad that gets picked, the players that come in, not this coaching bollocks, because it doesn't work our structure. I don't care what anyone says. It's time to change and get the manager role back. So let us know on the chat what you guys think of that. Well, I'm just about to get to my next pickup here. It's only 8:45 this morning. So there we go. It's always happening at Sunderland AFC. Cheers for watching the videos. Like I say, I will try my best to reply to as many people, if not everyone, if I can. So you take care of yourselves and have a great day. And see you later. How are the lads?
Yesterday, Sunderland decided, no, enough's enough. They were ahead against Birmingham City at the weekend, ended up losing again by 2-1. That didn't define his stay, though. Mick Beale sacked after only 12 games in charge at the Stadium of Light. And of course, he's a former Rangers manager who was appointed in December, replacing who then was in a very popular position at the club, Tony Mowbray, liked by most of the fans as far as I could see. And they signed Beale on a 2.5-year deal, but his run of only 4 wins in 12, including a 3-0 home defeat by Newcastle in the FA Cup, led to the Sunderland owner, the young man that we know, of course, Simon Kirrell, Louis Dreyfus, and the sporting director, Christian Speakman, to say enough's enough and it's goodbye to Mick Beale. You haven't been very complimentary about Mick Beale in the past, because we know that this was Mick Beale who was with Steven Gerrard at Rangers, who got a job in management at Queen's Park Rangers, who said no to Wolves and stayed, but then said yes to Rangers when they came in Glasgow, and he went up there and that didn't last. Now this hadn't lasted. Where is your thought now as to where he's got himself?
Well, listen, I'm disappointed to some extent for him, because he's gone to Sunderland, not really been given a lot of time, and when he went there, he was not given any real support in terms of the, you know, people inside Sunderland particularly wanting there as manager. I saw Sunderland play Hull on Boxing Day, and I was quite pleasantly surprised at how well organised he'd got them and how decent a side they were. So I thought maybe, just maybe, he'll be all right there. He would have been better off served following what the suggestion I had for him a year ago, or 18 months ago, 15 months ago, whenever it was, staying at Queen's Park Rangers. And the reasons why he attracted my ire was because he milked the reflective glory of appearing to turn down Wolverhampton Wanderers and staying with the project of an opportunity that he was given. Yeah, he was given the opportunity by Queen's Park Rangers. He was a number 2. It wasn't a queue of people that were looking for him to be a first-team manager. And Queen's Park Rangers gave him a chance, and he repaid them by leaving because he got ahead of himself and buying into his own press about where he was. And he went to Rangers, which I know is a job with great appeal because he'd been there previously with Steven Gerrard, but he needed to have learnt his trade and learned his trade as a manager, and he'd have been better off served at QPR. That being said, he made a choice. I didn't like the way he did it, and that was my criticism. He got found out a little bit at Rangers because the timing probably was wrong. If he'd have been there this season with Rodgers and what he's doing at Celtic, he might have had a more fertile ground to land on.
Well, you say that. He won 31 out of 43 games at Rangers.
But what's that then? 60% win record. What does that get Rangers? I mean, that got John Barnes sacked, once upon a time when he was the Ranger.
Well, he hasn't got them to where Philippe Clement has got them, and that's the bottom line.
Well, yeah. I mean, clearly it wasn't working. Clearly he wasn't ready for that job.
Right.
That doesn't mean he's not going to be ready for another job. And he goes to Sunderland, and for whatever reason, the 12-year-old owner decided to employ him and then subsequently take him out after
12-year-old.
Now, surely you would have made the decision. It was a surprising decision. It wasn't a natural fit. I don't know why they took Tony Mowbray out in the first place, and what that was about. Because ultimately he was doing a decent job.
And he was popular.
I think that was to do with the fact he spoke out of turn and perhaps talked about the transfer market when the owner was at school. And he wanted to make sure that they got another manager in there.
Right.
And Michael Beale was a strange one, and it doesn't appear to have been received very well by the fans. But the most important thing is he's got a 33% win record whilst he's at Sunderland, and that's what's done for him. They've dropped from where they were in the league, knocking on the playoff door, to 10th, and they're still within touching distance of the playoffs. And I don't think Sunderland were expecting to be in the playoffs this season, albeit they got close last year. In fact, did they get to the playoffs last year?
Well, I think they are expecting to be in amongst it this season because, they've taken action at this particular time with a sizable number of weeks left in the season, Simon, to get themselves further up the championship table to have a pop at the playoffs. They were 6th last year.
Yeah, so they did get in the playoffs.
Yes, they did. We'll put it out there, Sunderland fans, why did you never take to this guy? Was it because of the particular part of the world that he comes from? He's from Bromley in London. You don't like Sunderland?
Nothing to do with that, man.
What is it? Why did you not take to Beale? Because many of you, from the word go, it appears, were just not having him. You can give us a call on that 03717 223344. Maybe you could hear it in Beale's voice, Simon, at the weekend when a game that they looked like they were going to win, they ended up losing against Birmingham.
Well, they're a young group, so when their tails are up, the confidence is really high. And listen, I've got no doubt that we'll go on to win a good few more games this season. The game's been really harsh at the moment for us in isolated moments like set play. So we're a really talented group, so I've got no issues with that whatsoever.
So that was Beale at the weekend, but nonetheless, way before that, I think it was mid-December, you still weren't having him, Simon.
I also think he's a bit of a bluffer. I think he's one of those that talks a certain talk. He's now talking about the nature of the relationship with the management of Sunderland, because one of the reasons why Mowbray was out the door is he opened his mouth about transfers. He talked about needing transfer spend, and that created a negative reaction from the owner of Sunderland because that wasn't on the agenda, about the necessity to have more players. Look, I hope I'm wrong. I want young managers to be successful. We want number 2s coming out from underneath the umbrella of those that have got the top job and expanding the portfolio of managers we've got in this country. He started very well at Queen's Park Rangers. I don't like the manner in which he left Queen's Park Rangers because they gave him an opportunity. They took a punt. No one was running around saying, oh, that number 2 that used to work for Gerrard, that no one's really much heard of as a manager, we'll give him a punt. QPR did, and they supported him, and their reward for that was when they were going well, he got his head turned.
The fans did not take to Mick Beale, and it's as simple as that. So many of them getting in touch saying there was a moment in the weekend game against Birmingham at Birmingham when he substituted Tri-Hume, and the player comes off, extended his hand to Beale, and Beale totally blanked him, saying afterwards that he didn't notice him. And I think it went on Mick Beale to apologise for that as he blanked Hume. Big deal on that. But quite a lot of Sunderland fans are picking up on that. There's Lee, though, as a Sunderland fan. Mick Beale should never have been appointed at the club. Worst football I've watched in a long time. They weren't having him. He was never going to make it. He was never going to get on their good side. No matter what the results
then you've got an uphill battle. He would have had a better case if he'd have won more games. Now, if you win 4 out of 12 games, it's very early in your tenure, and clearly you've been put in a position of trying to build Sunderland up from the base that Tony Mowbray had left them, which was a decent base. Look, I am of the same mindset about Mick Beale in terms of clearly he can operate at a certain level, clearly he can coach, because he wouldn't have been in the position that he has.
Sure.
I don't know what he said at interview stage. I don't know whether I also what's all these cobblers about shaking a player's hand when they come off anyway? Half the time you're giving them a hook because they've let you down. Why there's a 4-act over nonsense of giving them a big hug and all that? That's them playing to the gallery. Whether he ignored them or he didn't ignore them is irrelevant.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is that if he'd have won 7 of his 12 games, we possibly wouldn't be having this discussion.
Sure.
And that was then compounded by the fact that for whatever reason, the Sunderland fans that are entitled to have watched their team in League One for the last few years have obviously got delusions of grandeur about where they think they should be.
Well, we'll see. I mean, certainly certain observers haven't missed and hit the wall when it comes to Mick Beale. Chris Sutton on social media last night. Sorry to see Mick Beale go. He may go down as Sunderland's and Rangers' worst ever manager all in the same season. I mean, he's got a bit to go if he's going to turn it around, if he's going to stay in football, mate, and get back into it. I've met him on a number of occasions. I find him decent company, a good man, well-intended, wants the best.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But for whatever reason, it has gone pear-shaped. Of that, there is no doubt.
And he needs to look at his decision-making process as to reasons why he takes jobs.
Yeah.
You know, and look at the better outcomes that could have been there. But he's a football guy. Sometimes they don't look beyond the end of their noses. He had a decent job at Queen's Park Rangers. He was, given an opportunity, and he should have afforded them a bit more respect.
Yeah.
And he didn't, and he's paid the consequences of making decisions that have been unwise. But the point is that Sunderland also have to look at their owner. Why
Absolutely.
take Tony Mowbray out, then bring somebody else in, and then fire this guy after 12 games? Because that's not a good reflection of you either.
No. I was down at Millwall and I saw Sunderland playing. Jack Clark scored that day for them. I think it ended as a 1-1 draw, but it was plenty of fight in that Sunderland team, and it was Mowbray in charge that day. There's one from Mark. Mick Beale came across as arrogant, slagged off as the fans quite a lot. We're not bothered where it came from. We just wanted the best for the football club. Did he slag off the fans? I find that hard to believe. 03717 223344. Any Sunderland fans who want to join us might well just do that. We'll see. We're coming up to 11.
White and Jordan on Talk.
Well, there we go. Oh dear me. Why didn't the Sunderland fans want him? So, first of all, we were on to a decent thing with Tony Mowbray. And you just had to look what he did to QPR and how bad he was at Rangers, and everybody warning us, don't get him. Us fans, we just know. It's as simple as that. We know what our club needs, we know what our club wants. We just know whether that person is suitable enough or not. There's nothing much complicated about it. I mean, Jack Ross, we weren't jumping for joy. Simon Grayson, we weren't jumping for joy. Phil Parkinson, we weren't jumping for joy. Lee Johnson, we weren't jumping. These are all sort of well below par managers that are not a big enough personality for Sunderland Football Club. Do you know, the club's massive, man. Massive, huge fan base. You need a big personality to take on Sunderland Football Club, not somebody that stands at the press conferences and after game interviews going, thought we didn't do well, you know what I mean? And Jack Ross, Grayson, Parkinson, Beale, Johnson, they were all like that. They were all the same. I mean, you want someone that's got some presence, like a big Sam Allardyce and stuff. I mean, I know Tony Mowbray was a bit, but he had something about him. Do you know what I mean? He's been around a long time, and we played some superb football under him. But us fans just know. It's as simple as that. Us fans just know. So there we go. You've heard what Micky Gray's had to say. You've also heard what Simon Jordon and White on TalkSport have had to say. Us fans would just know. And he was right, Simon Jordon, the fact, like he said, 12-year-old KLD. They must take some flack. You know, will KLD and Speakman learn from this? Will they learn and stop getting mediocre crap appointments? They're just about cutting it. We're getting players we've never heard of. Has Beale and Speakman learnt this time? Will our next appointment be a decent one. Let us know in your comments what you think. See you later.